Good morning, everybody. Quick, unscheduled broadcast. Happy Saturday. And this is going to be the new segment we call the Quickie. So I'm going to try to do 12 quick stories in 10 minutes. So let's go. Math, money, freedom. You guys know the drill. And none of this is investment advice, just edutainment. So first story out of the gate, Treasuries. We've been talking about a whole bunch of Treasuries are coming. This is a Bitcoin proxy from Intel, the big tech giant. Basically on Friday, late Friday, they disclosed that they had a bunch of Coinbase shares. And they just added them late June, early July, I think, worth approximately just under $1 million. It's a small step, but the point is, they're beginning to expose themselves to Bitcoin. And, as I always say, once you get a taste, you can't stop. So expect more of these and expect Intel to buy more in the very near future. So it's great to hear. Bitmex. In a related story, the crypto derivatives platform Bitmex reveals its total Bitcoin reserve in its balance sheet is monstrous, over $5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And they urge other exchanges to go public with the amount that they hold on their balance sheet too. So good on Bitmex, and that's a pretty powerful stash of Bitcoin. Now, Canada, really amazing news. Canada is above the United States, but far more advanced when it comes to crypto penetration. Per the results, nearly 30% of all participants in this survey had exposure to digital assets, Bitcoin and Ethereum mainly. 85% have exposure to Bitcoin and about 75% have some exposure to Ethereum. So well done. Amazing, Canada. Now this is super interesting. I always spoke about Bitcoin being freedom, but now it's also peace. Bitcoin is peace and freedom. And this is a naval officer or army officer or some military guy, but he speaks about how if Bitcoin becomes the world reserve asset, there's no real reason for war anymore. It becomes a war without winners. Basically, even with a 51% attack, everybody would be incentivized not to do such a thing. And the winner has no ability to steal or co-opt reserve currency, unlike they can take over land or ships or anything like that. So there's no ability to cheat Bitcoin, no ability to control the nodes, and no ability to create an illegitimate claim on the assets themselves. So it's super, super interesting to hear that point of view from a military officer. So who knows where this will go, but the point is, Bitcoin is freedom and peace and love and everything else and good for everybody. So I thought that was worth sharing. Now this is also kind of related regarding the new war that I talk about between the reserve currency US dollar, the digital yuan, and Bitcoin. And it's all coming to a head. So I'm so excited that when I talk about something and then there's an article published about it. So this is about how the digital yuan and euro now threaten the dollar as being the world reserve currency. And the irony of this whole story is the only way for these countries and places to really protect themselves is to find a way to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And that's kind of a hedge against losing the reserve currency status. So it also talks about how the C-19 situation has fueled a massive surge in global debt, spending, money printing, etc. And I think in the US, the debt is nearly 400% of global GDP, or the amount of debt that was issued is now about 400% of global GDP. So basically, currencies are in trouble. Fiat is in trouble. And the only savior for them is Bitcoin. All roads lead. Anyway, funny. Now, related to politics, here we are. Jack Dorsey, big fan, of course. This was a stunning statistic. 30% of Nigerians now own Bitcoin. So they're ahead of Canada, but they're doing it out of necessity. And Jack Dorsey wrote a letter to Senator Elizabeth Warren, very kind letter on Medium, basically urging her that progressives should love Bitcoin. So Jack is trying to bring Elizabeth Warren around. Drop a comment below if you believe he can, and if she will, but it is the answer for progressives. This also, another thing I've been talking about for a long time, of how sometimes I believe there is being a disjoint between the stock market and Bitcoin correlation. And this article talks again about stuff I've been talking about for quite a while. And there are increasing signs of stock market correction or crash ahead, depending on who you talk to. If you read the headlines, people saying the market's going to crash 50%. Even people like Cathie believes this could happen this year. Now, There is tons of data that predicts that Bitcoin market cycles could ultimately resume their strength. And even if the equity markets crash, Bitcoin could still float and remain strong, which is super interesting. I always talk about it as being the new flight to safety. As you go risk off in terms of investments, you move towards things like Bitcoin, and because it is the new gold, and that's what historically they did. So we will see what happens, but this was fascinating for me. Now, in a fun story, in 2014, MIT undergrad Jeremy Rubin conducted an experiment to give $100 worth of Bitcoin to his fellow graduates. 3,108 graduates took the offer, and Bitcoin was trading about $300, $330 at the time. And each student got around a third of a Bitcoin. So this was known as the MIT airdrop. Now, the experiment was to see what students would do. And many spent it on sushi, pizza, beer, and whatever else. And some sold when the price went higher. Some may still hold it. So collectively, the students got about $45 million worth of Bitcoin in today's money. And each student's current value of their $100 is worth about $14,000 today. So what's the moral of the story is hodl if you can. Super fun. Now, Theta, you guys know we're starting to dig into Theta, and it's making moves. This is basically a partnership between Theta and One Championship, and they're expanding the strategy of live entertainment with digital collectible NFTs. And I think Theta work with the World Poker Tour and a few other sports type events. They're also doing stuff with Katy Perry and a whole bunch of stuff with the Las Vegas residency. Anyway, Theta is one we are watching, and we'll see. But they have a lot of very novel concepts that could be very powerful in the future as a YouTube replacement. Now, a little bit of Palantir news. Cathie continues to load up on Palantir. She bought another $140 million of that stock. We remain pretty bullish on it. She sees something we don't see. She also has been loading up on Coinbase over the past couple of months. So we'll see. So interesting holding. Palantir could be had for $20 a few days ago. Had a little bounce above 25 and now it's back down around 22. So she sees something we all don't. And we like Palantir here on this channel. And finally, in a little bit of bad news, and I know you guys are interested in this, and it's very important to be aware of what's going on in the world, but Delta is running through China. They are canceling flights, locking down cities, and it's the worst situation in over 12 months in mainland China. Now, the Alpha variant is currently present in about 182 countries. After Alpha is the very first version of C19, and now Delta is in 132 countries. The problem with Delta is twofold. One, it spreads much faster in all conditions. And number two, it affects the youth. They are now vulnerable for the first time. So we're going to be monitoring this carefully. We're already in a situation where ICU beds are gone in the southeast of the US, Texas, and places like that. And once that happens, we could expect lockdowns again. I don't want to worry anybody. I just want to exercise caution. Everybody be safe out there. You know what to do. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. And no Q&A today. Thanks all. Talk to you soon.